So here we are. I'm officially launching this channel alongside my new project, the amazing A Warehouse game. I've been working on this game for about 2 months now. Architecturally, I'm leaning heavily into the gameplay ability system, utilizing input mapping for abilities and powering my enemies with complex behavior trees. Hello everyone, and welcome to GridShift. I have spent the last 15 years deep in the world of JavaScript and web applications. But lately, the landscape has shifted. With the rise of AI, software engineering is starting to feel less like a craft and more like a support role. Between that and the 2 a.m. support calls, I knew I needed a change. About a year ago, I decided to dive headfirst into Unreal Engine. I'm no stranger to Gamedev. Back in 2019, I spent my evenings building 2D games in GameMaker and even Golang. It was my creative getaway. I believed learning new programming languages to keep myself creative, open to new ideas. Life changed 3 years ago when I became a dad. My priorities shifted toward responsibility and family, and my evenings became about my son. But thanks to my incredibly supportive wife, who has always championed my passion for game development, I found the space to start building again every weekends. Today, I'm going to walk you through how my abilities are loaded from data assets into the player controller. I'll also show you the logic behind the equip and unequip system, which dynamically grants or removes abilities based on the player's weapon, and a deep dive into one specific feature, the placed item ability. It's good to be back to real programming. Let's get into the code. Alright, let's dive into the core of my gameplay ability system and input mapping. Today, I'm going to focus on 2 main activities, the interact and the place item ability. As soon as I cross the collision sphere of a warehouse item, it triggers one of my pre-granted abilities. And if I press the R key, the place item ability gets activated. Let's look at what's happening behind the scenes. As you saw, walking onto the collision sphere triggers the warehouse item on component begin overlap event, which activates this ability. Now, this specific ability was already granted to the player through my startup data. You notice here in the reactive abilities, I have the interact ability mapped to the hero interact input. This granted ability is identified by a specific tag, and it simply stays active because of the method we are calling here. Once this ability is active, it runs a tick event in the background. It also waits for a gameplay event from the interact input ability. On every tick, it's performing a line trace to detect if an item is in front of us and then caches that item. That cached item is ticked up once we receive the event. We get that event from the second gameplay ability, interact input, which is responsible for sending gameplay event. Now that you know the basics of my system, let's look at how the place item ability gets added. Each warehouse item contains item data, which includes default item abilities. I can add as many abilities to this array. First is hero place item ability. Another one is place item confirm input, similar to our interact setup. The place item ability activates when we press the R key within the hero interact ability. This does 2 things. It attaches the item to the hero and grants these 2 abilities on the fly. Their actual activation will depend on their ability activation policy. In the attach to hero method, we simply add a state tag and handle the attachment logic. One more thing to note. I'm relying heavily on interfaces to fetch certain methods. Instead of using expensive find methods or checking for specific classes or components, I check if the current trace item implements the assign item abilities interface. If it does, I know it's a warehouse item actor, and I can call the necessary methods. Finally, back in the place item ability, which is activated the moment it's granted, the input mapping here is just a placeholder. It runs a tick to check what's in front of you, updates the ghost mesh, and updates the UI. Then it waits for the input event. When you hit the space key, it triggers the confirm input to drop or store the item. All that logic is handled right here in the tick. That's the breakdown of my current code. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.